Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Caitlin Nguyen, and I will be the host for this workshop today. I'm a nursing student at College of Health Science, and I'm in the class of 2025. It is our honor today to have our speaker, Dr. Phak here. He received his PhD degree in computer science at University of Toulouse, France in 2019. Dr. Hill works at Vingroup Big Data Institute as a research scientist and head of the fundamental research team. At Ving Big Data, he conducted research on computer vision, machine learning, and medical imaging, and was leading several research projects on medical AI, including the collection of various types of medical data, managing and annotating data, and developing new AI solutions for medical analysis. He is also a teaching fellow at the College of Engineering and Computer Science. Welcome, Professor Hill. Next, let's move on to our workshop. The title for our workshop today is What is Research Proposal and Why it is Important for Any Research Project. Now, I will leave the stage to our beloved professor, please.
Thank you so much, Ling. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Right. Okay, that's perfect. First of all, I want to thank Professor Pani, the organizer Ling, Wang, Chung, right? Chung Zung, for the support and inviting me for this wonderful workshop. So today I want to share with you my experience about how to write a good research proposal. Okay, we start now. Let's try to share my screen. All right, so please tell me if you can see my screen now.
Yes, I can see your screen now.
Okay, awesome. So the topic today is how to write a good research proposal. Okay, so today I want to share with you. Let's begin by the objective of this talk. I will share with you the main objective of talk and a bit about myself, and then I want to move to the very short definition of research proposal. What is a research proposal and the key component of a research proposal? And finally, and most importantly, is how we can write a successful research proposal. For each part, for each component, how we have some tip for write a proposal, right? So I will share with you my experience on this topic. So the talk today is designed for. It's not for it's not for a senior researcher, but for you, for graduate students at VinUni who are required to submit your research proposal as a condition of the candidature. Let's say, for example, I know many of you start the research under studying work and study or Euro program with your supervisor. So the best way to start your our research with your supervisor is write a research proposal, write a clear and a good research proposal. So this talk is for you. So at the end of the talk, you will have a look at broad purpose and requirements of a research proposal, and you will learn some important skill to develop an approach, methods, or new skill for writing a clear and focused research proposal. So you can understand how you can, going from a big topic and work down the research proposal into some core components and examine them independently. So a bit about myself. Maybe I have it know about me. I did my PhD in computer science from University of Toulouse, France, in 2019, and then I came back to Vietnam and working as a research scientist at Vingroup Big Data Institutes. P&L belong to Vingroup. And now, just last month, I moved to VinUni for teaching fellow at CCS and research fellows at VinUni Illinois Smart House Center. So the question here is, what exactly a research proposal? Okay, so maybe have you know about that? You hear about that, but when I ask you a question, what exactly a research proposal? So it's quite simple. A research proposal is simply a structure and formal document that explains what you plan to research, what you plan to do, right? Why it's worth it for researching, and how you can plan to achieve our goals, the research goal. If you look here, we have three key points. The first is what you plan to research. It means what is your research topic, right? So the second question is why it's important for research, right? And the finally, how you can achieve the research topic or the research outcome. If you have a document can respond the three key questions, so we call it a research proposal. It's quite simple, right? So in fact, a research proposal aims to reflect for key point relevance, context, approach, and feasibility. So and now, okay, but why we use research proposal? What is main purpose of research proposals? So in fact, the objective of a research proposal can be summarized as 3 points here. First is to propose a new method, a technique that will result in a significant contribution to knowledge. A second is will be used for formulating a detailed plan of a project, including both a methodological approach and theoretical framework. It is to ensure that a research topic or research objective is achievable within a required time and available resources like computing or data or human resource, for example. Okay, so this document also try help you to demonstrate the capacity of the expertise or the experience to undertake the project. It shows that you can with this document you can show that you have enough skill to achieve the final goals of the research. And now the question is, okay, so how we can you know divide what is the main content or structure of research proposal? It's really depend it's very depend on very between fields, and sometimes it also depend on the supervisor, right? So my advice is let's discuss or work closely with the supervisor to get more advice, because it depend on person also. But in general, a research proposal consists of the following elements. First is introduction. You should talk about what is the research topic, the significant and research problem. Second is about research aims and question. You need to pose a research question for the project, right? So next, you will move to literature review to understand or to have know about what have been done, what methods is existing now, and what is limitation of the field. So it's really important. And then you need to have a study design. Study design is exactly what you can do. In fact, it's about the proposed methods. Okay, and then you have to have a timeline for your project. You need to divide your project into some milestone and allocate time for complete its milestones. And finally is when your research proposal should be concluded, but finished by expected outcome, what you commitment to deliver in your research project. Normally we will start by introduction. You talk about your research topic, give a background, research problem, and you will move to research aim of question. It's a quite hard is this step, because you need to understand what you want to solve, okay, what is important, and how you can solve that. So to do that, you need to have a literature review. You need to identify state of the art technique or state of the art methods have been done is a field, and then you try to solve some very maybe it's a very small part of something need to be done, like some limitations. So you need to design the propose a new method to solve a limitation of the field, and then you break down the project into timelines, and finally you get the results. Yeah, and you need to talk about the expected outcome at the end of the research proposal. So what are key factors for writing a successful research proposal? First, you need to identify a specific research area in the broader landscape of the study. It needs to very specific, clearly and specific what you want to do. It's not talk about the overall research community, right? We have some, you do research in computer vision, you do research in machine learning, but what exactly you want to do is need to very specific. A second, you need to identify what have been done and what is existing or news identify gap in knowledge that can be developed into significant research problem. This is really important because if you cannot identify, the limitation of the fields, you cannot create new knowledge. This thing is important, right? If you cannot create new knowledge, so a solo research is nothing, because we do not do repeatedly something have been done or something there is no meaning, right? Next, the purpose should be built in a convincing case for your project, at, you know, because you can identify what is the limitation of the field, but what the way you solve it, it means the purple methods need to bring a new approach to an existing or new identified problem. So if you have a problem, so you cannot apply the same what have been done is past, but you need to try to propose something new, right? And try to experiment and finding new findings, so we can conclude, okay, we have contributed to research community. So, and finally, the purpose need to, the research purpose need to show that your methods, the proposed techniques is achievable within a period of time or resource. For example, let's say you can propose something new. You can have a new idea, a high level of technique to solve very hard problem. This problem requires some data or some resource, but you don't have it. But how you can solve that, right? So it means the approach should be achievable with some, some constraint of human resource, computer resource, and other, etc. All right, so now we will move to very detail on a way how we can write the writing research proposal. All the research proposals start by a cover page like that. So at least you need to show the name, you need to show the supervisor's name, you need to specify the title of your project, and of course you need to indicate the name of institution or department. This is minimums, right? So it's depend on the supervisor, also depend on the template the university provide to you, but in general this is minimal. Okay, so name, supervisor names, title of project, institution or department. Okay, so but the next section will be introduction section. In this section you need to introduce your research topic, to the reader and explain why it's important. You know, imagine who will read the proposal. First, the supervisor, right? He or she can be a university professor, but sometimes not all like that. It's not like that. Sometimes the people read the proposal, maybe a non-technical audience, right? He or she can be non-technical reader. So you need to provide us very basic information about the research topic. It's a matter of very clearly using the language, clear language, concise language to explain the background of the research problem. Okay, so we do that by provides the trends of the fields. For example, a measure or evolution of the fields, the dominant trends or the limitations of the fields. This is what we need to provide is your background in the introductory section. The second is you need to answer the question, why is this topic significant to you? Why is important, right? It's important when it can solve some limitation of the field, right? If not, it's not important. So if you can identify the limitation, if you can identify the gap, knowledge gap, for example, a gap in knowledge, so this can guide you to propose something new, propose new knowledge. So by identifying gaps in academic literature, you can thinking about news method. So the way we do that is we try to look at a lot of material like books, journals, paper, technical blogs, etc. So by reading more, you can more, have more, have a detailed picture about the field, and you can identify limitation and try to propose something new to solve that. So, how we can write a good insurance story section? So, based on my experience, we need to. I want to share with you. Normally, I will follow the principle of zeroing into the targets, meaning you try to begin with one's fields, but then you try to go down and break it to the house project. Okay, so we start by a very general picture, but we need to go detail in our project. So remember that the purpose of the proposal is a communicate with other. We are in the community, research community. So the way you communicate with reader is need to clear and precise using clear and precise language. Okay. So writing something clear and precise is really difficult and it's hard skill to learn. But when you start with, you can if you can improve this skill over time when you're working more on this proposal, on writing paper or technical blog or technical document. Okay, so as the introduction section, you need, we follow by research aims and question. So in this section, you need to have a clear and focused research question. Okay, um, it's really important because if you cannot define something clearly, you cannot have a good way to follow. That's the right. So a clear and focused research question will shaping the direction of your research. So to have to have a right correction direction, to have a clear research question, as I mentioned before, we need to do literature review, right? This is why I told you literature is really important. The question here is, what is a good research question, right? What is a good research question? It's hard to answer this question, but based on my experience in general, a good research question should be relevance. It must be clearly related to what you want to do, right? And what the project, what the research project see to address. It should be important. The research aims and question are should be important. It should be addressed a key problem is a field or solved limitation is a field, right? So research problem should be clear and precise. It should be expressed using concise language and contains, uh, it can uh, it can explain something clearly to people. Okay, and what is being investigated should be clearly specified. It's also have a researchable, so the information and source required to answer this research question must exist, right? And must be able to access them. Let's back to my exams, my private exams. So you want to develop something cool, right? You want to build a system to detect, the cancer from images. You want to using startups, yeah, AI algorithm to detect cancer from medical images, for example. But you don't have data. You don't have a computing resource. How you can achieve the research aim, right? So this is a feature of a research. A good research question is researchable. It means you have enough resource to solve the problem. All right. So next, move to the next part in a resource proposal. It's called literature review. What you do in a literature review is you try to summarize key academic works in the fields of research, right? So it's not about read documents, read a lot of paper, but it's about summarize what you have read, analyze data, categorize, and compare the most significant work, right? So we need focus on the most significant work, but how to identify most significant works is we have some tip for that. Let's try like search for paper from a top tier conference or journal from a well-known researcher in the world. For example, this is you can find the most significant work. Uh, and most importantly, so it should be clearly demonstrate the gap of knowledge and problem that is the research project will be addressed by show both strength and limitation of previous research, right? So by the way, you can identify the limitation of the work. You propose something new to source tackle, right? Limitation of previous research. It means you can contribute something new to research community, right? So how what is tip to do literature review? So we have two main consideration when you're trying writing a literature review for a research proposal. First is the focus. Focus is really important. Okay, a literature review for a research proposal should be give an accurate picture of a general field, right? It's not about discuss every text in details, but it's about give a picture, accurate picture of the fields. And it should be, well organized around key similarity, key difference, and other point that you want to make about the development of academic writing as a topic. It means not about short, it's all proposal. It's about short this paper, that paper, what they do, what he's do, okay? But you need to look at the paper, try to figure out what is the trend of the research, the research field. You try to compare the data from, research paper, right? And you figure out what is the limitation. So I show you an example. Uh, when I did my PhD several years ago, my research topic is about try to develop some AI system to recognize humans action from a video. So the question is, okay, when I start my PhD, the first year of my PhD, I try to answer the question. Okay, so now what are state of the art methods in this field of human action recognition? So I start by read a lot of paper, but it's hard to organize, compare, and try to identify the trend and limited of the field. But while I thinking about the way I try to structure what I have read by using all the paper using a same data set and try to compare the methods using a same evaluation protocol. It's let's look at this figure. So I have some methods. All the methods is about human action recognition, but they test the algorithm on the same data set. Okay, so by trying to compare the pattern on the same data set, I can figure out, okay, so what is a sota state of the art methods at that time. And so I can choose, right? I can choose a starting point to, for example, the best method here by trying to run some experiment to reproduce what they have been done, right? So I can identify the trend, what they use as a term. This is a simple way to do literature review. Sometimes you need to reproduce what other research team have done. And it's really require a lot of time. Okay, so the next part of the research proposal will be research design. Research design is mean what I will do to solve my research problem. Okay, so what you can do, how you can do it, and how this can combine data source and technical methods allowing you to address the research problem. So you need to answer some key questions like what kind of data or sources you will use, how will you collect or manage a data, which methods, which technique you will use to analyze, interpret the data. So all the thing we call research design. So we have two key factor to have a good research design here. It should be considering the theories and methods as a researcher have used. Okay, and you should also consider the methods or technique the other researcher have not been used to solve the problem. So if you try to use something have not been used, and you show that it can achieve give you a good result, mean you have the research have a novelty, right? The research will have a novelty if you would try something new, and no one had tried it before, but you can show that okay, it's good, we can use it, we try to use these new methods, apply for this data, and it can give a good performance, so you can publish a paper. This is great in research. Okay, all right, so when you try to write research design a section in the research proposal, is normally come up with a diagram like that. So it's called overview of a system, overview of technique, overview of proposed approach. So if one person or senior researcher just look at this picture, he can understand, see, or he can understand what you can will do in the project without reading the whole text, right? So this, for example, I show you a pipeline of a framework for lung disease classification and localization using chest X-ray images. I write a very long, a long type, but I need to have this picture to show what I will do in my research project. So this picture, in general, is show a system overview, the input, is images, output is images, but with localization of some finding in the images. What we use is a machining system, okay, and we try to change the system to achieve this resource, you know, this outcome. So also we try to show reader how we can prepare data. Okay, this project require data, right? How we can use prepare collect data. So I have a diagram to show that. Okay, we will try to collect data from hospital with a huge of data, and then we try to define do the identifications. We try to annotate data, and then we divide the data into model development set and a test set. Then we build some machining system to learn from data and can predict a news images. And finally, we try to compare our performance with the doctor. It's a whole picture, okay? It's a whole picture. This is really important when you try to write research design. You need to have a same diagram like that to show what will be shown in a single picture. And the next section will be timeline, right? Timeline, what it means is it indicate to the supervisor that okay, your project can be complete with exactly how many months as a period of candidature. Okay, the time should be consist of a series of goals. It means you need to divide the whole project into some smaller parts. Each part you have allocate an amount of time for that and commit to to achieve the goals with a fixed time. And the timeline is not a static document. Okay, you can adjust, you can modify it, depend on during you do the project. Maybe we have some factor unexpected. So sometimes you need to change, right? So it means a timeline is not a static document. And you will need to update it regularly. This is uh, an exam of a timeline, right? We have a project we try to divide the project into some main activities we call milestone, for example. First, we try to design this, then we design that. Okay, we design, implement the data, we collect the data. It start here, we call activity. Okay, and the outcome will be you need to specify the outcome for each activity and the times, the allocate time for each activity. This is a very simple example of a timeline. You can do the same for the research project. Also, for for very big project, you can use this kind of diagram for show the timeline for the research project. So you can divide the project into some stage like that. For each stage, you have some activities, right? Each activity you need to commit the time to complete this to achieve the goals of each activity. And when look at this timeline, we can see how long each stage is and we need how much time to complete the whole project. All right. And now, when you finish, when you finish, at the end of the research proposal, you need to conclude, right? And this time you to show the expected outcome and the impacts. So you can conclude the research proposal by stating about the expected outcome. Like, okay, so I have methods, I propose this methods, and I can do that by using this technique. But finally, what you have, right? What you have. So you can conclude the project by, okay, we can have a system. This system can do this, can do that, or the expected of this is a research paper, is an outcome of the research project, right? So you need to focus on how you envisage or how you can do uh, right? Do not overclaim or underclaim, but focus on what you can do, uh, how you can contribute to debates or change in the research field, and what impact might the finding have on the research, okay, and what impact might the methods have on can open new research in the future. For example, you can after the research, you can show that, oh, we open a new research direction, so people should follow and develop this research direction. That is a perfect as a great and great contribution to the research field. All right, so I add here some, important document to go into detail how to write research proposal. So if you curious and want to go further about how to write a good research proposal, so you can look at the documents and try to practice. Right? Thank you so much. And now I will stop my sharing, and I really happy to have your questions, and we can share, continue sharing about how to write research proposal. Right? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. I think now is the Q&A session. Please type down your question so that we can answer it. So this comment is from Chen Thuy Is literature?
The question from feeling right.
I'm sorry. Oh yes, it's from Thuy Yes, the comment is from Thuy
Yeah. Yeah, to least the question is a literature review is same as systematic review. I think a systematic review is like a subset of literature review. A systematic review refer to look at some uh, system, specific system, and it depends on the field. But in general, I can say yes, it's a subset of literature review. Thank you.
The next question: how can we define an
Oh, oh, we, yeah, how can we define an effective timeline in our proposal? So it's really a good question, I think, and I think it's quite it's hard question for me to respond, but based on my experience, we need to really understand about the research problem, understand the skill, the expertise, and the way we solve that. Depend on the data, depend on the computing resource, depend on human resource also. So it's depend on a lot of factor. But uh, when you have clear about the factor like resource problem, is hard, is quite easy or not, what you want to do, so you will have more information to define an effective timeline. But in general, for example, for literature review, maybe you just spend 1 to 2 months for reading, so you can have enough time to have a general picture about literature review, and that you have can spend more time for thinking about uh, the proposed methods and the way you so that design study design maybe require more time, but in general it's really depend on what you want to do.
Next question is from Thảo Linh Ngô. Do you have any?
Do you have tips? Yeah, do you
Yes.
have any tips to write a convincing proposal? Yes, I want to share with you a link, một thảo link, right? A link we need to understand about the template or the content or structure of a research proposal. First, you need to understand how you can start, what we will write in the main section like study design. You need to very clear and precise writing. Okay, it's not like you write some as a document like it has a few, but research proposal is way we communicate with as a researcher or so research supervisor, right? So the language should be clear and precise is the first thing. The second thing is uh, you need to start really early to have to really understand the research question before writing research proposal. Okay, meaning is you have understand about the general picture of the research field before writing the research proposal, and try to know the best experiment I have is we try to do experiment and find some very primary result, and this result we can add to research proposal to to convince my supervisor about my methods. So if you have a result, so of course it's not a complete result, but a very quick result, a very quick experiments, but at least you show to the supervisor, okay, we have a do literature review, we have a research idea to solve a limitation, and we try propose this and we do experiment, and so that is a quite good, that is perfectly to convince your supervisor. Okay.
Next question is from
Wow,
Amit.
Amita. Oh, I'm happy to happy to receive the question, Amita. The question is, could you talk about how to connect objective and aims with activities? So it's hard, Abita. It's hard question for me, right? No, man. So objective and aims with activities. So first we need to identify exactly what is our objective and aims, and try to find the correct way to complete this objective. And from that, we are thinking about which activity we can do to achieve the objective a faster way. So what we will have to do. So my experience is about you know uh, we need really understand the scale of objective and aim. If the objective is is something too hard to achieve, so we need to, it's very hard to have a corresponding activity to achieve this objective, so we need to divide the objective into some smaller part, and find the corresponding activity to solve each small part of objective. Is my experience.
Next is another question from Chen Ling.
Thank you so much, Link. The question is, if I do a research on my own, how I can find a full text of some article that have a restrict access? Oh, I believe this question should be sent to Amita and Tolitin, who is director of library, Vinyuni Library, right? So I believe at Vinyuni we can support you to do that by we have a library, and we work with some very big publisher like IEEE. So you can find some article by first try to communicate with your supervisor. Maybe he can help you or contact to library. So if any way to find that. In general, now I believe that a research community now is moved to open access. I believe that even for for Chinese publisher, now they really want to move to improve research community by open the database for researcher all over the world. So some article you want to find, I think it can find, it's open access, but if you cannot, you let's try to connect to supervisor or video need library. I believe they can give you some support on that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tony can answer this question. Yeah, thank you so much, Professor Prani.
Well, a question about the slide.
About the slide, I'm happy to share the slide with you for sure, for sure, for sure, Kai. I'm happy to share my slide with you. Maybe I will share this slide to Link, and Link can have to deliver it to student. Please, it's
Yes,
okay.
I'm happy to do that. So I believe that is the last question we have for today. We are now one step closer to understanding about research projects and how to start doing it. Once again, I want to say thank you to our speaker, Dr. Hill, for a wonderful and inspiring session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you. Now, I will do the grab up and show you the magic code for the workshop. A quick reminder that we will have a mini event called Running Man that will happen at 8:30 p.m. tonight. Enjoy the fun and thank you so much for your participation. The magic code is research proposal